video, I have a very dream inspired cake idea for you. So I'm going to be showing you how to make this really pretty dream catcher cake topper. Also, don't forget that you can subscribe to the Cakes by Lynn's YouTube channel just by hitting that button. You can also hit the notification bell next to the subscribe button, and this just alerts you every time I upload a new video. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so to start my dream catcher cake topper, first of all, I've just got my cake, and this is just a 6-inch cake which measures 5 inches in height. So the first thing that I'm going to do is start with the round top section of my cake topper. So I've just got 2 pieces of 18 gauge wire. Now I'm using 2 pieces just because I want it to be quite sturdy. Now if you've got a tiered cake, you may just be placing the top of your dream catcher against the side of your cake, but if you're like me and you're placing it on top of your cake, I've also got a smaller piece of wire and just a flower pick. Now these ones are just the small flower picks from PME. So first of all, take my wire and just start wrapping that around each other. I'm then going to wrap that round just so we create a loop. And once you're happy with the size, I'm just going to wrap those 2 ends around themselves just to secure that in place. Now my loop just measures 5 inches in diameter, so in order to push this into my cake, all I'm going to do is just create a stem from the bottom. Now this stem will then go into my flower pick, so it's nice and food safe. So take a smaller piece of that metal and just fold it in half, pinch those ends together and wind this round just so it's nice and secure and isn't going to move when it's in the cake. I can then just wind those 2 ends around each other, cut that off. You can then just push that flower pick on. So here we have the start of our dream catcher. Okay, so I'm going to start by adding the edging. I've just got some gum paste here which I've coloured in a dark ivory colour and just added a hint of brown. Now if you don't have gum paste, you might just want to add a small amount of Tylose powder to your fondant, just so when it dries it will dry solid. So roll this out, and I'm going to keep it around 1 to 2 millimeters in thickness. Now cut out some strips of my gum paste which are about 7 to 10 millimeters in diameter. Use some edible glue just on that wire. Now I'm just going to start winding this around, just making sure that my edges are meeting up so that there are no gaps in between. When I get to the end of one of my strips, I'm just going to join on another one. Now when I get to the end, I'm just going to bring it round, just close off that gap. Okay, so there we have the start of our dream catcher. I've just got some edible tints here, so I've just got some cream and some chocolate. Mix those together, go in just where you've got those joins to create some shadow. So I always find just by adding in some edible tints, you just create a more lifelike appearance. So once the outside is done, we're now going to work on the inside. So you would usually have a string tied in a pattern inside, creating your dream catcher. So for this, I'm just going to use some white gum paste. Now you want to use something that will set hard, just because you need it to take its own weight when it's going to be standing up. Okay, so dream catchers come with so many different patterns on the inside, and I'm going to go for one that has kind of a flower design. So all I've done is just create this template. So roll out my white gum paste into really thin lengths, and we want to create 8 of these shapes, just making sure that it's around the same diameter the whole way down. Now I'm going to create that teardrop shape, but I'm just going to leave one of my ends slightly longer. So you want your teardrop shape to be half the diameter of your dream catcher. Now I will put this template on my website, so if you do make one in a slightly different size, you can just alter that slightly. So our next one is going to go on at a 45-degree angle. Now all I'm looking for is one of the points of my petal to come close to the inside edge of our dream catcher, and for the other piece just to wrap over the edge. And I'm going to do this with all 8 pieces. Okay, so once you're happy with the positioning of all your strands, so we've got this shorter strand going to the inside of our dream catcher, and then we've got this slightly longer strand just coming over the edge. I'm just going to push down lightly in the center, stick those middles together and just slightly flatten that down. Use the end of my Dresden tool, so just something with a point on. Pop a small amount of edible glue just on the inside where the shorter strands meet. Push those against the side. Okay, so once all the inside pieces are on, I'm just going to work on these longer pieces. So I'm just going to put a small amount of edible glue just around the edge. Where it comes to a point, I'm just going to push down slightly to join those together and just wrap that gum paste around. The inside of our dream catcher. Now I'm going to leave this to one side, just laying flat to completely dry. Okay, so in order to create my feathers, I've just got my ball tool, a Dresden tool, a very small rolling pin, a foam mat to use with your ball tool. I've also got my PME veining board. Now you may have seen this in some of my flower videos, and when you roll over it, it just creates this nice indent, so you get a raised area on your gum paste. Now, if you don't have one of these, you can just use your small rolling pin and roll down from 3 different sides, just leaving a raised triangle. I've then created a template around 2 inches in length, and I've just cut out from a piece of card just this kind of leaf petal shape. Okay, so place my gum paste on my mat and just roll that out. So when we pull that off, you can see we've just got this vein that runs all the way up. Take a really small rolling pin and just roll out from those edges, just so it tapers down. I can then take my template, and I want the vein to run all the way down the length of the feather, and just cut that out. Just cut in at a diagonal and just cut out some triangles, starting from the top where we've got this wider vein. Now, they don't have to match the other side. You might just want to do 2 on one side and 3 on the other. So there we're getting the start of our feather shape. Now, just bring in your foam mat with your ball tool. Push down on that edge slightly just to thin that out, just keeping those buoyant. Now, if any of them have rounded off too much, you can just go back in with your knife and just trim those down. Starting from where the vein ends, come out to the side with my Dresden tool, just creating some lines. Now, as you come to the edge, if you just pull away, you will slightly tear the gum paste. This is just going to make it look more realistic. I can then use my Dresden tool, and I'm just going to make that center section slightly more indented. You then want to leave this to dry and just create some movement. So there we have our first feather, and I'm just going to pop this to one side to dry while we make the rest. So I've created a selection of feathers, and it's now time to add some colour. I'm just going to use a combination of some edible tints and some coloured luster dust just to go over the top. So I've just got some corresponding colours, so some pinks, a purple and some blues. And I'm then going to go in with a small amount of white food gel just to bring out some highlights. Start by going in with some of that matte colour, and once my first layer of colour is on, I'm just going to go in with some luster dust just at the top. I've then got a really small paintbrush, and just on some of those edges go in and add a few highlights. So I'm just working my way up, just going into some of those grooves that we made with our Dresden tool. Once you're done, there we have your feather. So I'm just going to go ahead and colour some of my feathers in some other colours. Okay, so now I've got a selection of feathers. I just want to add some gold detail just to the bottom of a few of these. So I'm just going to take a small amount of gold edible luster dust and just mix this with some rejuvenating spirit just to make a paint. Paint the bottom in gold, and also just put a diagonal stripe down the side. Okay, so now our feathers are all ready. I'm going to bring back in the top of our dream catcher. Now, as you can see, it's hardened. Now it is quite delicate, so I've just coloured some fondant in some different shades that match the colour that we've coloured our feathers. And first of all, I'm just going to take a really small amount of one of those colours and just to create some small balls, I'm just going to attach them in different parts of our dream catcher, just so they look like some little beads. Okay, so I've got my cake, and the next thing that I want to do is pop in the top of my dream catcher. Okay, so I'm going to add on some of my feathers. Now, my larger feathers I'm going to save for the top of the cake. So we're going to have some more of this brown leather coming down the front, just attached to some of our feathers at the bottom. So I'm just going to take some of my feathers and just position them. Now I'm also going to do these at slightly different lengths. I'm just going to make some beads to go at the top of these ones. Create some balls. Now I'm going to cut those in half, flatten those down, and then add some edible glue just to the top of my feathers. Now some of these you could always colour them in gold. Okay, so I've just got some of that leftover gum paste that I used for the outside of my dream catcher, and I'm just going to roll this out into strips exactly the same as we used for the outside. I'm going to join the dream catcher to my feathers. Okay, so once they are in place, all I'm going to do is start positioning some of the feathers on the top and just gluing those into place. I've then just got a small space in the center where I want to add a small flower. So I'm going to make a miniature rose. Now I've just got some light pink gum paste. So I'm going to roll this out really thin and using my two smallest cutters. This one just measures 1 centimeter across and this one is 1.5 centimeters. Now I will put a link in the description below to a full video where I show you exactly how I make my roses. But I'm just going to start with a really small flower bud. So I am going to need 11 of the smaller petals and 5 of the slightly larger ones. Go around all these petals and just fan out that outside edge. So for my first petal, I'm just wrapping that around that center bud and then add on my next petals. And don't forget, you can go over to the full rose video and I will put the link in the description below. And I'm just going to pop the last 5 petals on, and these are the slightly larger ones. The outside of the petal has just been turned outwards into a slight point. So I'm going to pop these ones on, and then I can leave this to dry before adding it onto my cake. Now I've also made a few flower buds, and I'll also put a link in the description below to a video where I show you how to make these. Okay, so once our mini rose has dried, add a small amount of edible glue just between those 2 feathers. Now I'm just going to take some of those flower buds that I've created and just glue those into place between those feathers. Now I actually had 1 extra feather left and I didn't want to waste it, so I've just added the pink one to the front. So here we have the finished dreamcatcher cake with these really pretty feathers and just finished it off with a few flowers. I really hope you've enjoyed this video tutorial. If you have, then don't forget to hit that like button just so I know. Also, don't forget, if you want to see more videos like this, you can click on the Cakes by Lindsay YouTube channel and just go to the videos section where you'll find all the different tutorials that I've uploaded. You can also subscribe just by hitting the subscribe button. Plus, don't forget to hit that notification bell next to the subscribe button, and this will just alert you every time I upload a new video. Okay, so until next time, bye!